Hi, I'm Lochlan, and I'm going to be speaking with my mum, Lesley. So let me start by asking you something. When you hear the word diabetes, what do you think of? Maybe sugar, maybe tablets, maybe something older people get. That's what most people think. But I live personally with type 1 diabetes, and when I was diagnosed, I was just 4. I don't remember life without type 1 diabetes. At 4 years old, I wasn't worrying about homework. I wasn't worrying about money. I was learning how to stay alive. Type 1 diabetes isn't caused by lifestyle. It's an autoimmune condition. My immune system attacked and destroyed the cells in my pancreas that make insulin, the hormone that keeps us alive. Without insulin, our bodies can't turn food into energy. Without insulin, we don't survive. So every single day of my life, I have to check my blood sugar, count every carbohydrate, take insulin, watch consistently for highs and lows. I don't get a break. I don't get a day off, and I didn't choose this, and I am not alone. In Scotland, over 350,000 people live with diabetes. Over 36,000 live with type 1. And type 1 makes up over half of emergency hospital admissions for diabetes. The UK has one of the highest rates for type 1 diabetes in children in the world. Around 35,000 children and young people live with diabetes, 96% of them type 1. So this isn't rare. This is happening in classrooms, playgrounds and sports pitches every single day. Do you know how many extra decisions a day someone with type 1 diabetes has to make? On average, it's around 180 extra decisions every single day. Decisions about what to eat, when to eat, how much insulin to take, whether exercise will drop blood sugars, whether stress will raise them, whether you're feeling low, whether it's safe to sleep. Imagine making hundreds of life-impacting decisions every day just to stay alive, and doing that as a child.
When Lochlan was diagnosed as a type 1 warrior at 4, our world changed instantly. The life we once lived was gone forever. No more carefree meals or spontaneous events. We had our precious son who had been so very ill, but he was now literally fighting every single day to stay alive. Lochlan was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes 1 week into his school journey in primary 1. This was a really frightening time for us as a family, but Lochlan ended up being the one comforting myself and his dad. He is an absolute inspiration. But what I want to be honest about today is we had no idea what the signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes were. No one had ever taught us this. There is something called the 4 T's. These are the warning signs of type 1 diabetes. Toilet, thirst, tired, and thinner. And looking back, Lochlan had every single one of them. This makes me really sad. If only we had known. But we didn't, and we didn't know what that meant. And because we didn't know, we didn't get him to hospital as quickly as we could have. By the time Lochlan was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, he was already in early stages of diabetic ketoacidosis, DKA, a life-threatening condition caused by lack of insulin. And sadly, this is happening far too often. So many children and young people across Scotland and the UK are misdiagnosed or diagnosed late, simply because the signs aren't recognised, not by families, and sometimes not even by health professionals. And that's why education matters, because understanding the signs can literally save lives. Suddenly, we were learning how to be Lochlan's pancreas and fighting to keep him alive. Checking blood glucose levels during the night, sleep became non-existent. Injecting insulin into his tiny wee arms and body, and then listening for his CGM and pump alarms. Watching for signs that could turn into emergencies in minutes, shaking, confusion, sweating, and even collapse. At first, I thought I understood diabetes, but I really didn't, because what I knew didn't even come close to what we were living. And I quickly realised something else. Most people around us didn't know either. No one had been taught. Teachers, sports coaches, friends, even the wider community. Not because they didn't care, but because no one had educated them. And that lack of understanding can be dangerous.
I love football, and I always have. Football was my lifeline. I was just like everyone else when I was playing. But football with type 1 diabetes always hasn't been easy. When I was 9, I broke my leg. It was a terrible time, and during that time, managing my diabetes became even harder. My mental health suffered. Less movement changed my blood sugars. Pain affected my levels. Stress affected my levels. But what really stood out was how little understanding there was around me. Some football clubs didn't know how to support me. Some were nervous. Some didn't understand the seriousness. And that made me feel different, like a problem, like a risk, when really I just needed understanding. Then something incredible happened. When I was 10 years old, I decided to do a charity event to raise awareness, and it was Lochlan Stadium Marathon. I walked 28 miles in 4 days around all the SPFL Premiership clubs, Hampden and Townhead Park, completing 2 miles at each stadium. Lap after lap, managing my blood sugars, taking insulin, eating to keep my levels safe, all while walking distance of a marathon, 9.5 months after breaking my leg. Not because I wanted attention, not because I wanted to show something important. Type 1 diabetes doesn't stop you, and awareness can change what people believe is possible. That marathon raised money, but more importantly, it raised understanding.
Not long after Lochlan Stadium Marathon, we were invited to 10 Downing Street, meeting Theresa May. See, you can even run a country with type 1 diabetes. We were there to talk about Lochlan's journey and his impact on others, to talk about type 1 diabetes, to talk about awareness. And one message really stayed with us: you're making a difference, keep doing more. It became very apparent when Lochlan did his stadium marathon that awareness was something that in the sports world there wasn't enough understanding of type 1 diabetes, and this did really spur us on to do more. So on the train home, this young man's brain was in overdrive, and that moment sparked something powerful and something very special.
I decided I wanted to do more. I didn't want just people to clap. I wanted people to learn. I wanted to change how people thought about type 1 diabetes. So we set up our charity. When I was 11 years old, a charity to raise awareness and understanding, reduce stigma, break down the barriers, and give young people a voice, because lived experience is powerful. When people hear from someone their own age, they listen, they understand, and their mindset changes.
We are just a mum and a son trying to make a difference in this world. So through our charity, we now work across Scotland. We deliver education in schools, training for sports coaches and educators, youth groups, giving young people a voice, community outreach, empowering young people who live as type 1 warriors to stand up and be counted, all focused on one thing: changing the mindset around type 1 diabetes, because mindset affects everything. When people think it's not serious, they don't spot the signs, they don't take it seriously. When people think it's caused by sugar, or ask, did you eat too many sweeties? They judge. When people say you don't look diabetic, that's hurtful. When people think kids with type 1 shouldn't participate in sport, they limit opportunity. But we do understand the strange looks we get when we ask our child, are you high in public? Type 1 diabetes doesn't define Lochlan or anyone who lives with it. It doesn't stop you achieving your dreams. With the right support, anything is possible. So when people understand, they support, they include, they protect.
Sports should be a safe place, but exercise can change blood sugar levels fast. If a coach doesn't recognise the signs of a low blood sugar, they become emergencies. But when coaches are trained, sports become empowering, not scary, and kids like me can play confidently, just like everyone else.
I have to say words fail me on how proud I am to be Lochlan's mum. He is my absolute hero. He inspires me, but he has faced physical and mental challenges, but has turned adversity into positivity. We can't talk about type 1 diabetes without talking about mental health. The constant monitoring, the constant decisions, the fear of going high or low, the pressure of being perfect, the 180 extra decisions a day. Studies show young people with type 1 diabetes are at a higher risk of anxiety, burnout and depression, not because they're weak, but because the condition is relentless. This condition is life-threatening and it's lifelong. It impacts everyone around them. And remember, there's still no cure. And when people around them don't understand, that pressure grows. Understanding isn't just about physical safety, it's about emotional well-being too.
When people finally understand, they often say, "I had no idea it was like that." And that sentence matters, because before, they couldn't help. Now, they can. They notice, they support, and they act.
Imagine a future where every Scottish school understands type 1 diabetes. Every sports club feels confident to support young people, and they all understand and know the 4 T's. No child feels different or unsafe. No emergency is missed because of lack of awareness. Type 1 diabetes is not mistaken for it's not that serious. That future is possible, but it starts with changing the mindset, education, lived experience, conversation, and building a strong community.
Type 1 diabetes is a part of my life, but it doesn't define my limits. Understanding defines opportunity, awareness defines safety, and mindset defines inclusion. I want to be a positive role model for others. My role models are Scott Allen, Paul McMullen, Jack Iredale, and Bruce Anderson. They are professional footballers who live with type 1 diabetes and are achieving at the highest level. If I can become a person that has inspired another, I will be proud.
So today, we ask you, learn about type 1 diabetes, listen to the lived experience, share what you learn, never judge. Please no horror stories about someone you know losing a limb or going blind because of diabetes. Be kind. Be someone's safe person and listening ear, because when understanding spreads, lives are safer, mental health improves, and communities become stronger.
Type 1 diabetes doesn't stop me, but misunderstanding can stop many. Let's change that together. Thank you.